What is going on, Diesel Nation? We're excited to have you guys with us today on the Diesel Podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube and aren't subscribed, make sure and click the subscribe button, turn on notifications, like and comment. Let us know what you think about the episode, if you have questions, maybe that we didn't ask, or if there's a guest that you'd like to have on to address a different topic, different make, anything you're curious about relating to owning a diesel truck, the aftermarket, what's going on, with news and emissions, those sorts of things. We'd love to be able to deliver the content that you want, take your feedback and use it to be able to produce an episode. Today, I'm going to be chatting with Austin Denny, and he's very well known in the Powerstroke world with his 6-liter, and I wanted to chat with him about his truck, the evolution of it from where he started to where it is now. Look forward a little bit in the 6-liter Powerstroke world and ask what comes next as far as guys like him pushing the envelope forward. So it's going to be a great chat with him today. Before we get to it, I want to remind you our friends over at Kershaw Knives have a 20% off discount code for you. Just use code 20diesel at kershaw.kaiusa.com. It's a great way to save 20% off site-wide on a knife if you're looking for something for EDC or hunting, fishing, around the house. They've got something for every budget, which is really cool. So if you're a collector looking for something really specific with a certain type of blade steel or opening mechanism, handle material, or just need something you can work really hard and just have, in a drawer or in your pocket or, throw in a tackle box or something like that, they've definitely got something for you. All right, let's get to today's episode with Austin Denny and talking 6-liter Powerstroke performance. Austin, welcome to the Diesel Podcast, man. I'm excited to chat with you. You've come up on a ton of podcasts. I've done people in racing, the 6-liter world, the Powerstroke world. So it's great to finally chat with you, be able to learn more about you, your truck, and just talk racing and Powerstrokes and going fast.
Heck yeah, bud. Let's go.
Like I said, I've heard your name come up a ton, and we have listeners that they kind of focus in on the Cummins side or Duramax, or they're just new to diesels, and they might not know your story, your passion for drag racing, your passion with your truck. Tell me a little bit about how it started with racing and performance. What got you into it, or how'd you get bit by that bug?
It would have been my sophomore year in high school. Parents bought a 6-liter Powerstroke out of necessity because they needed something to pull their camper, and I knew nothing about diesels. Well, it turns out they only pulled that camper one time to park it at the campground. Then they decided to like that campground, so it never left. So for like 6 months, the truck just sat. And I was like, well, this is a waste, so I'll start driving it. And then I started kind of learn more and getting into the diesel stuff. And my neighbor worked for Caterpillar. So I decided to I wanted to job shouting one day. We went and worked on a Terragator at a local ag spreader company, and just like being around big stuff kind of hooked me. So then I got playing with the 6-liter stuff and seeing on like YouTube people turn them up, put tuners and stuff on them. So I was like, well, this is a great idea. Let's go ahead and, stock head bolted 6-liter. Let's put a tuner on it and see what happens. So it wasn't shortly thereafter. There was, coolant blowing everywhere, and I went to a local diesel shop. It's actually Outlaw Diesel Performance in Greenfield here. They studded the truck for the first time, and seeing like cab off the 6-liter stuff, I was like, this stuff is like, this is nuts. Well, I went to college. I ended up going to the University of Northwestern Ohio for college to study diesel and ag diesel. My parents decided to go on vacation one time and left me at home with the truck. And I sent a Snapchat to my dad of the cab pulled off in his shop, and he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, look, man, just bear with me. I got a plan here. And then I ended up doing like a non-VGT turbo, and I ordered some bigger injectors. And then I had no goal with it. I was just doing it because I wanted to try it and like prove to myself I could do it. So then I went to a track night over here at Muncie Dragway on like a Wednesday testing tune, and I made one pass, and then I was like, oh, crap. I was pretty well hooked after that, and it was over. So I played with that crew cab for like 2 years, 3 years. I say played. I still have it. I ain't getting rid of my first truck ever. My dad actually races it in 770 now. But I got to the point where the truck was starting to break down into like the high 11s. And the track told me, like, hey, you need to put a roll bar in this thing, or like you got to figure something out or stop going this fast. And I was like, well, that seems pointless. So I didn't want to do that. I was kind of in the shop talking with dad one day, and he saw I was really starting to take an interest to it and like it. And he asked me, he's like, what happens if I just like buy you a single cab and let you just like tinker with it and play with it. And I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, Pops. We can try those. So I found like it was a Kansas State highway truck, just a single cab 4-wheel drive 6 liter. Uh, got it home, and within 2 days, it was just a bare frame. Painted it and ordered put some traction bars on it. Ordered a Flight Fab front 4 link, and went out to race 670. So we spent a few years in 670, 590, and now it's evolved into Pro Street, and there's a pro mod sitting over there actually.
How did you learn how to do all this, or did you have a background in working on that platform of truck, or did you have friends help you, or how'd you get it all put together?
YouTube. YouTube was the whole way, the first way. Outlaw's main mechanic, Marshall Campbell at the time, he was really helpful and always showing me stuff. Like whenever I'd pop into the shop, it kind of started out as just being that kid that was annoying them and always hanging around the shop and didn't want to leave, to just kind of going for it. And then when I figured something I didn't know, I just looked on YouTube, and it was actually amazing that enough people have worked on these trucks that there's enough videos out there that, I mean, it's enough to get you in trouble really fast.
Oh yeah. Well, it's been really interesting to me. I've said this a lot, but when I started to really get into diesel trucks, some of my friends had 6 liters, and that was kind of my first real introduction to, wow, these things can they take off quick with a tuner and a 4-wheel drive launch. Well, this is different than a gas truck and stuff. And I started to get more involved in following forums and go to different races or events and things like that. And the perception of how it's changed from then, so say like the 2010s, to where like a truck like yours is night and day difference with the power and all the things you guys can do. Well, you had mentioned before the podcast about the engine, and I wanted to ask you about that because I've done, had chats about different 6-liter engine builds and things like that. How do you make this much power to keep the engine together? Like, I know you can't give away the secret per se, but like, how do you do it?
Look, if somebody wants to work as hard as I do, put in the hours, they can try it. We've learned it kind of stems from not okay. There's been this perception here recently in like the diesel world where for the longest time in diesel drag racing, it's like, oh, it's completely different than a gas vehicle. We don't need to do anything like the gas guys are doing. Well, now we've learned in like the last, I'm gonna say 2 or 3 years, the more stuff we keep implementing that like the gas guys are doing, the faster and faster we go. Well, for the longest time, it's like, oh, well, that's a Cummins, and it's not going to work with a 6-liter. Like, we don't need to pay attention to AFR or any of that stuff. Well, this year I quickly opened my eyes after talking with the lawn extensively that paying attention to AFR is a big deal. Spraying 3 pounds of nitrous a pass is nothing. So I would say like the key that we've done to go faster is just it's a lot of nitrous and a lot of boost and a lot of not as much fuel, but a lot less fuel, and paying attention to the air fuel ratio. As far like the engine build, nobody believes me, but it's still a bone stock block. It's not sleeved or anything. It still had water running through it. The heads really aren't ginormously ported or anything. I mean, Jesse did port them, but they're not like he's done a lot bigger ports for other people before. It's got a gold stage 3 cam in it, Waggler rods. It does have forged pistons in it because I did crack a factory style piston, but I wouldn't be scared to put another factory piston in it. And it's just got valve springs and push rods. Other than that, it's still what Ford made it to be.
What power level is it at now? Or I'm sure maybe that you're doing some changes or something this winter before next year, but what kind of times are you getting out of it, and what power level is it at?
Our last pass, well, not our last pass, the pass against at Shide, we on the horsepower calculator, it's right at like 1997 at the crank. But for going up in that final race against Ziegler, I kind of looked at my crew guy when I pulled up in the staging lane. I was like, hey, I think we have an exhaust leak, which is really inconvenient because I heard like a tick in the cab. And I was like, man, that sucks. It's like, this might hurt us. Well, that tick was actually a rod that had already started to bend and was starting to miss. So for most of that run, one cylinder was not firing, and then the truck shut off about 50 feet before the finish line because it hydrolocked the cylinder. It bent the rod even more. It was a really nice picture, man. I think my Instagram. But I mean, that pass was a 528 at 136.
Wow. That's
But
moving.
I've the last since it would have been post Rocky Top. So the last couple events are Shide, and then the last couple of events Wagler Motorsports Park put on. I think we've done 11 passes, and all of them have been 533 or faster. So 533 to 528. So we're getting there. Slowly but surely.
We chatted a little bit before the podcast about it was real brief, but about transmissions and the 5R and the 4R100. So what are you running in your truck?
Right now it has a 4R in it. I was a diehard 5R guy. I just wanted to keep I don't know what it is. I have this thing on my shoulder that I like to carry around for some reason. If people tell me something won't last or you can't do it, I've just been like, well, watch this. Let's see what happens, I guess. So we kept with the 5R for the longest time, and I'm pretty positive I hold the record for a 5R. But we've been like 558 with one. And the biggest reason we had to pull it out towards the end that we were pulling it out every other event because it was burning the direct clutches up. They just would not hold the power anymore. But anymore, it's like I was talking with Justin Flatford, who builds my trainees now. We were fighting converter issues most of the time, I think. Now that we've kind of switched around converters and started using more of it's actually like custom built stagers and stuff. It's like a bolt together converter, but still a weld together, just drop in style. I think I could take that 5R and go just as fast almost. But we went to the 4R because pulling transmissions was starting to wear on me a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I was chatting with a company builds transmissions. We were talking about the Dodge trucks and the 48REs, and he was saying the same thing. It's the converter. They just get so hot that you're pulling them all the time, and they've kind of been looking for other kind of routes to go. Just the heat that you would build, staging it, and it just wreaks havoc on it. So I know that's some guys have chatted with me about going the 4R100 route or sticking with the 5R. And it's transmission's always interesting. I don't know why. Of all the parts of a truck that that kind of pull me in, it's the transmission side. Maybe because if it works, it's great. If it doesn't, I mean, whether it's a tow truck or race truck or anything like that, you're definitely going to feel it and be stuck. But I'm always really curious about that side of the kind of going fast game.
No, I've always had great guys around me. David Ferguson took care of the 5R. Anytime I see him tearing to that 5R or Justin tearing to the 4R, I'm like, yeah, that's some like witchcraft going on there. We'll go ahead and let you guys take care of that. And anymore now, Justin will call me and be like, hey, I got an idea that can make this better. And I'm like, does it mean I get to go faster? The answer is always yes. I'm like, well, yeah, go ahead. Do whatever you need to do then. That's your department.
I wanted to ask you something about diesel performance. I can tell that you're passionate, you're excited, about racing and your truck and just the performance side of it. And we have a lot of younger people who listen, and I'll get questions from them. And one of them will kind of be, how do I get into this? But the other side of it is, how can I get into racing? It seems really expensive now. The truck prices are higher. How, can I do this on a budget? And being all the different stages you've been to and how involved you are in it, what are some tips you would give somebody who's younger? They got bit by that bug, but they are looking for ways to be able to like affordably do it. Maybe it's a truck like we all did at one time. We'd use it for work during the week, take it to, test and tunes on the weekend and everything else. But I was curious what advice you'd give somebody that's looking to get into racing.
Biggest thing I can say is just show up. Everybody, if you show up to an ODSS event, you're not going to like walk into somebody's pit or anything like that. And they're going to be like, hey, whoa, don't look at that, get away. No, we're all open books. You can walk up, ask any questions you want. And as long as, to an extent, if the person's like got his head deep in the laptop, I'll go up and start annoying him. He might get a little irritated. But other than that, nobody cares. You can walk up and talk to anybody. But the biggest thing is, even if you have a Ken Phillips, one ODSS ET with I'm almost positive it was a bone stock Duramax. You don't have to have anything super fast. You don't have to have it doesn't. I mean, you don't need to jump in and try to run 670 right away. If you want to just race and get your foot wet and try to figure it out, show up run ET. And if you need help and you're like scared, like I don't really know how to race or anything, ask. They will let somebody ride with you and they will walk you through it. At UCC this year, there was a point where I think it was on Friday. Loewen actually had a session for beginners. Like there'd be seasoned racers sitting in like the staging lanes. Hey, if you don't know what you're doing, ask. We will show you. We'll walk you through it. Nobody's going to shame you if you walk up, if you go up and double ball or anything in your learning. Like just show up and get into it. And don't try to race outside your means. If you try to put together a setup that just because like I have this laying around and that laying around and this laying around, you're going to end up costing yourself more money in the long run when those fail and break and cause problems. Just take your time and build through the process in a sense.
What truck would you pick, or what would you suggest to somebody to get into this? Would you tell them to get a 6-liter? Would you tell them to look at a Duramax, a Cummins? What's a great truck to start with?
Man, we're trying to be affordable. Do not pick a 6-liter. To start with, I mean, you can't go wrong with the Cummins, honestly. I mean, it's very reliable. They hold decent power just for being in a completely bone stock form. Will you fight a transmission? Yes, but everybody tries to say this transmission is better than that transmission or that transmission is better than this transmission. All of them have problems at a certain point. If you go drag racing, a transmission, you're not, there's not a transmission out there that once you drag race enough, you're not going to have to pull it. Like there's just not that, the answer is not there yet.
Yeah.
Or ever will be. It's just part of drag racing.
Yeah, I get that question sometimes, and I'm like, they all cost about the same. It's just when you're going to spend the money on doing it, you know. And I think with the used vehicle prices that are out there, those Cummins trucks aren't as easy or as affordable to find as they used to be. Same thing with like an LBZ or an LB7 or something like that. It's tough to be able to juggle it, but I know that passion for racing and getting into it is something that it's really important, because I think everything comes from that. The R&D on parts, the ingenuity, the hard work, team building, putting in the time and effort. It all kind of revolves around the racetrack. It always has, even in the gas car days, muscle car days. And so it's really encouraging to hear or see younger people, want to get into it and not be intimidated, like you said, because you go out there and you got 3,000 horsepower trucks and your favorite brands, and they're out there going, and you're like, I'm really going to go run a 14.5 or, a 13.8 and not, look like I don't know what I'm doing. But just like you said, showing up is so important.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that is how I got started into it. My first year, I went to a Shy Diesel extravaganza. I had no clue really what was going on, but I went over there and I saw Chase Lunsford with this King Speed Pro Street truck. And I think at that point in time, he was doing like 560s or 550s. And I thought that was the fastest thing on the planet. And from that point on, I was hooked.
Oh, yeah. The first like big event I ever went to was Shy Diesel. This was a long time ago. And I thought that I knew what diesel performance was about till I got there. And I could tell immediately kind of getting into town when there's just tons of vehicles everywhere, tons of diesel trucks. And then you get to the fairgrounds and just seeing the pulling trucks and, the guys with the big trailers. And I was like, I had no clue what diesel performance was till I went there and saw everything. It was kind of intimidating at first. I'm like, I've been around or been in this industry for 2 or 3 years. I didn't know it was like this, but it's definitely worth checking something like that out. You can really, I don't know, it's just eye opening, and then just kind of lights a fire in you to, either race or be more involved in it, or, just want to be around it more.
No, the old Shy at Terre Haute, that was an experience. That's all there is to say about that. Pulling up there to the fairgrounds, pulling down here to Wagler, I still get goosebumps every time. Shide's my favorite event. UCC is really starting to creep up there just because it's so close to home. But going down for Shide, and you come over now at Wagler, I'll never forget. You're in the back country in the middle of nowhere, and you come over a little hill rolling across the field, and then you look over to your right, and there's well, I don't know if it'll be like that this year, but there's big blow ups for the pool and everything. Like I think Nishimoto had a blow up. Mav TV had their big uh, inflatable. I don't know what you call those things, but just looking over there and seeing the sheer size of an event and the atmosphere around there is just, I'm getting excited talking about it now.
Now, for like a daily driver, what's do you daily drive a 6 liter, or you stay in the Powerstroke world, or what do you daily?
Daily drive, man. I got a 2004 little Chevy Colorado, little gas beer. But no, I have a 6.7 Powerstroke 2014 that I guess you could say daily. It's kind of a weekend toy, but like I said, I still have my Crew Cab 6 liter that I started with. It makes right around 1,000 horsepower now, and we still get that out and go play all the time. It's still completely streetable. I wouldn't be scared to drive to Florida and back if I needed to.
I'm sure there's a lot of guys who see you racing, and they they either have a 6 liter or they're thinking about getting one. And I'm thinking more of like that daily driving, maybe using it for work, towing something. And they always ask, what do I need to do to make it reliable, or what should I do to, you know, make it perform, as I want to? What are some things you would tell somebody that either is just like brand new to buying one, or they're out there looking, some things they should do to make it as reliable as they can?
The first thing I would tell somebody is your best bet's not to go on Google and just Google a 6 liter and common problems. You will be petrified of it. There are millions of these trucks on the road, and there is a complete and total recipe that you can Google. I mean, obviously, you need to head stud it. An upgraded EGR, we'll say. And after that, I mean, the 5R110 in factory form, I've seen some of them go 300,000 miles with no problem. Some of them make it 150,000. But in all aspects, they're really not that expensive to rebuild in a stock form. It's a really good transmission. It holds a lot of power too in a factory form. 800, 900 horsepower on a factory 5R, in my opinion, will live for a while, depending on how smart you are with it. If you're going out there and doing burnouts all day, it's not going to live. Sorry. But just doing that stuff. And then the biggest thing on a 6 liter is maintenance. If you keep up on your maintenance, keep good oil in it. Don't run Rotella. Go get some hot shots. Go get Schaefer's. Get a very high quality oil. If you do run Rotella, get it like a stiction eliminator or a additive from the hundreds of companies that make them now, it seems. Just doing that alone will help the life of the injectors last. And I'm not scared of them at all anymore, obviously, but I like them, in my opinion. They are a truck with, we still haven't found the limits of them yet, in my opinion. I mean, there's not another, to my knowledge, there's not another diesel truck out there that you can still take a cast block, bone stock block, and go make 2,000 horsepower with and not worry about it.
Yeah, it seems like there's so many different, routes you could take with a truck like that. And you'd mentioned before about having a plan put in place and not just using like a part here and a part there. How would somebody go about setting up that plan? Is it to say, hey, I want 600 horsepower, or I want to run this at the track? How would you suggest somebody puts together like a parts list and a build plan and what order to do things in?
So it's actually like a very common thing that I've been harping on and we've been debating hardcore, is that in the ODSS organization, we have a couple group chats, and people think the rules for Pro Street need changed. Well, my biggest thing on that is you need to, if you're wanting to build a truck to go racing with, you need to pick a class. Say, I want to run 670, or I want to run 590. If you want to run Pro Street, say, I want to run Pro Street. And then, depending on the platform you have, if you say I want to run 670 and say you have a crew cab short bed and you call Firepunk, they're going to give you they could probably give you a quote over the phone of, this is what you need, and we'll put you at 670 on the money every time. If you want to run 770, it's the same concept. Just keep picking. There's an ET 770, 670, 590, Pro Street, Pro Mod. You can pick any of these classes. The ET 770 trucks, they are your street trucks. 670, in my opinion, is there's a few out there that do it, but you're getting away from a street truck at that point because it does take in a still street form truck, you're talking 14, 15, 1600 horsepower to run 670. 770, you're talking an 800 horsepower truck. It's just pick the class. And like I said, if there's companies out there that have built enough of these trucks and have enough trucks running that they can tell you what you need and what to expect.
I think even like for a daily driver or something where we want reliable, you still struggle with that a little bit if you don't have a plan. I've done it, where I buy this tuner, didn't like it, sold it, got this one at this air intake, and if I just would have stopped and said, what do I really want? What am I trying to do here? I could have saved a lot of money and time. And so that advice you gave, it applies. Even the guys who are, towing trailers or using them for work, is just having a plan at the start. Is that, I'm sure you chat with a lot of people and you hear it where they go down a route and they don't like how it drives. Maybe the turbo's a little too big or the converter's a little too loose, and then they got to change it, and you're dropping it and you're spending this money and this time. And I think just maximizing, especially now, in today's economy, just maximizing that money and that time investment can definitely make the experience a lot better than, when you're constantly either changing parts or pulling transmissions or, doing things with injectors. It goes a long way to, I think, have a better experience with performance and racing.
No, 100%. That's like my crew cab truck. People ask me all the time, like, how much money have you put in that thing? I'm like is it since or like over the last 8 years? Because I've rebuilt the thing like 10 times in 8 years. It was a terrible financial decision. If I would have just done this the first time, we would have been way better off. Yeah. Or even the Pro Street truck now. I mean, like I said, it started as a bone stock 670 index truck. I say bone stock, but for 670, I still think those are almost stock trucks at times. They're not, but if you still have steel bed and a steel front clip and everything, and it just has a roll bar in it, anymore, I venture that is street and stock truck. But it started out as that, and heck, we've rebuilt the thing. This is the first winter since that first year that I haven't really touched it.
You got me thinking about something. You talked about or mentioned that you don't think the 6-liter has hit its full potential yet. And when I think about the Cummins world a little bit, I see, well, Duramax world too, but I see this transition of taking that engine and putting it into a car, something lighter. And I done a podcast last year with a company that put a 6-liter in a GTR, and they were talking about the process of doing that. Do you think that's the next big thing, is to take that engine and put it into something lighter to be able to push that envelope?
I do. Putting it in a actual car form, do you mean like as a Pro Mod type chassis, or do you mean just like as like the swap?
I guess it could be either one, whichever sort of platform would get the weight down, and just be able to kind of open up how fast it could go. I don't really think like a swap like how we think of Fummin swaps or things like that, but more like in the racing side and kind of like what Ryan Milliken's doing and some of those other guys out there.
I don't know if you could say it's going to be the next big thing, because the best way you can look at it is the faster the class you go to, that group of people, that circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Like if you sit here and think about the amount of pro mod diesel vehicles that are even out there in the country, you're talking what, 20 people, 25 people, maybe? They're all diehard Cummins guys, most of them. But it's just hard to get people to think of the 6-liter as this powerhouse. The things that Jesse is doing, I think, could make it very appealing. Buying an aluminum block at the price range that Jesse has discussed pricing it at, you can't touch like some of those Cummins blocks for that. And it's kind of a catch-22 is if people want to, I can't say evolve, because the fast Cummins Pro mods all have Motec. You have to really change your thinking of tuning a factory ECM. But it would just be a hard turn. Now, I mean, I intend to go a lot faster. That's why Jesse has turned over the reins and pretty much given me that chassis and said, go to war with it and see what you can do. So the goal for next year is I want that truck to go in the fours. The Pro Shoot truck sitting behind me. You can't see it. And the Pro Mod, by the end of 2024, the Powerstroke record is a 4.50 right now from the Rudy's Pro Mod. I want to get really close to that. That is my goal with that truck, and I think it's doable. If I can somehow make this 4,700-pound truck go, if it can go 499, I'll do backflips down the whole track. That car over there, I'm hoping will weigh 3,100 pounds with me in it. So at the same power level, if I can figure out how to two-wheel drive, we'll be doing good.
Do you think? I'm thinking about the Powerstroke in general when we're chatting about this, and I think what would have the potential to make this power, what has the R&D behind it, what has the guys who are willing to race it. Do you think that the 6-liter engine is kind of the best hope for it? Like, do you see the 6.4 doing any of this, or I don't know if I see 6.7 stuff progressing to this level. 7.3, just in my mind, I kind of think this is the best platform to probably do it with.
When you think of the Powerstroke level, just the Powerstroke group in general, there's a couple names that instantly pop in my head. I think of Charlie Fish, Nathaniel, Zach Pierce, and now all of a sudden I just drew a blank on his name. He's got the burgundy 7.3 snake. I'm so thinking.
Oh, Brian?
Yes. Yeah, I think of Brian. All of those trucks are covered by the 3 platforms. I agree. The 6.7, everybody thought it was going to be the next greatest thing in drag racing, and it just hasn't happened yet. But the 6.4, the 6-liter, and the 7.3, the stuff that is coming out of that camp of us Powerstrokes is unreal. Zach Pierce has a crew cab that just went I think it went 538. And he texted me and said, I'm coming after you. And I was like, yeah, you are. That's a lot. So I think your collective to see it progress farther is if you can get more people to bounce ideas off of. If Charlie races his truck a lot more, it's going to be extremely fast. Even faster than it is. He's going to keep learning, and then he can share that information with me, and we can keep bouncing ideas. If you look at the Cummins guys, that's all they've done is bounce ideas off between if you look at a race and there's Ben, Ryan, and Levon sitting there, they're actually talking and discussing about stuff they tried and did, and it worked, it didn't work. We just don't have much of that. There's not – when I go to a race, if I break a part, there is nobody else I can go to and ask for it. I have to keep a trailer just full of stuff, or I just bring a whole spare engine with me. But the more collective group of people we can get that want to progress into that level of racing, the faster you will see that platform go. Do I think the 6-liter is the best platform to work with? Man, that's tough. I would think so, because in my mind, I always tell myself it's the cheapest.
I think I'm definitely not an expert in this area. It's just this, I'm somebody who follows it and likes to cover different things that are going on. But when I think of 7.3, and I've had Brian on recently to talk about performance with a 7.3, and I think it's 6-liters, and I'm chatting with you, I've chatted with Charlie, I've chatted with a lot of these guys, and once I think about 6.4s, I know the performance is there, but I kind of naturally think, okay, the 6-liter is probably, for a few different reasons, something that has a lot of potential. I think especially because it's pre-07, there's a lot of things that people can do, or they're just in a different kind of class of what they can do. That definitely helps. And then, like you said, there are some really fast 6-liters out there, and you've come up on a bunch of podcasts, so they know about you. They chat with you. They race against you, and so I think that kind of team, pushing forward is definitely going to give it a really good chance, and that's what's exciting to see. I wanted to ask you about team for a second because I think that's really important, not just in racing, but in a lot of different things. How how does that help you do what you do? How does it help even the sport itself? Like you mentioned, Levon, Ryan, and Ben sitting there chatting and talking about things they did. I always really like to talk about that side of it because I think it's incredibly important, especially you're traveling, you're racing, um, doing a lot of different things. How does that help you stay competitive and push this forward?
It is it you can't do it at this point without a team. Um, Obviously, I kind of race out of the Warren Diesel camp now, trying to talk Jesse out of pulling. We'll go racing full time, but he likes pulling too much. But just I've got Justin Flatford and he's actually I work with him all day, and then he comes here and works all day in my shop. But Alex Marr, it doesn't matter what I break, in a sense of just knowing that I have them sitting there and they're like UCC 2 years ago, I threw out the number one rod out of the block, racing Cody Fish in the SNS Diesel Grudge Race, and I was like, crap. Well, we're only 30 minutes from home, and my spare engine's still sitting in the shop. So I sent Dad home. We swapped the engine overnight in the pits at Indy. They were down for it. They didn't care. But just trying to find people that are willing to commit to that much work and not look at you. I mean, I can't pay them guys their time. I wish I could. But just having a team in general that will be there for you and you can rely on, it helps in the fact of like I don't have to worry about every tiny little detail on the truck. Like on race day, I can focus on racing. If it breaks anymore, they just jump in there and I'm like, hey, what do you guys need? Y'all need some tools or something? I can, I'll stand over here and answer questions, I guess. But that's just the biggest benefit I see. The other benefit is having Jesse. He's told me before to go win races, and he doesn't. Just having the having somebody there that knowing that if I do break something, like my season's not over. He's willing to help. He will make sure that we have the opportunity to succeed and push this platform. I'm really big actually into dirt car racing too, in the sense of like a fan. And that's one of the biggest detriments that I see to some people that have the opportunity to be really good. You see they have a lot of skill is if they're kind of out there like racing to not break it. At this point in Pro Street, it's just you got to go.
That's a really good point, and it applies to a lot of different things. Like if you think about starting a diesel shop or starting in any company really, or racing, like you talked about with not being afraid to go out there and you don't know what you're doing, so you ask questions, is just taking that leap, so to speak. And then once you do, is having those people around you who will support you, and the confidence is incredibly important. How do you? I would be thinking this if I was listening to this podcast. How do I find those people? How do I find those people that I can trust or that would do? Is it just the passion kind of brings people together and you just meet them, or how do you do that?
Um, it is definitely this whole racing family. It literally is a family. Um, Justin came around because I was referred to him from Steve from Stainless Diesel. He said, "Hey, just so you know, this guy is like in your backyard because Justin only lives 30 minutes away, and I had no clue about this. And he can help you get where you need to get with the transmission and stuff." Alex, he's from Wisconsin. Uh, he was down here for work when I still worked for Caterpillar, and I got a phone call from my dad and said, "Hey, this kid says he knows you or something, or he follows you on TikTok." He's like, he's over here at the shop. We're playing cornhole. You want to slide over real quick? Went over there, and we just kicked it off. Now he's literally my best friend. he ended up moving down here for work, and I left Caterpillar, went to work with him. So it's just me and him in the shop. But he's just he likes to work. He's down. He wants to go racing, and it worked. Shied this year, I blew up 2 high-pressure oil pumps. There was a I have no idea, and I feel bad. I don't know his name, but he works with Bob Milliken in Arizona. He just happened to be at the track, and next thing I know, he was pulling the turbo off the truck and starting to change the high pressure oil pump. And I was just like, okay, that looks like okay, whatever. But it's just you have to, if you're at that point and you want people to help you, if the thing that stinks is I've found those people that just want to be around for the race and they don't want to be there. They want to be there for Saturday. They don't want to be there Monday through Thursday and driving. You get a lot of those, but to find those diehard people, it's you know it when you meet them and you network and it just happens. I don't know how to explain it completely. Like there's not a do A and B will happen. It just you have to. It's just meeting people and.
Yeah, I think you definitely, the way you explained it, I understood it. It's almost like when you put out positive energy and you're around someone else who does it, you know it versus if they don't, it's just something you can sense. But I think it's putting yourself in the right kind of environment, in the right situation, and then networking, which is kind of really tough. It can be tough for some people. I think about, say, myself is I don't walk into a room and just talk with everyone, which is really kind of funny because people think, oh, well, you do a podcast, so you love to talk with everyone. And I do enjoy talking and I enjoy learning, but the networking was always sort of hard for me. I'd have to think, what pulls me together, which trucks was a major one. So I got to know a lot of these people, was passion for diesel trucks. And, I see Ryan Milliken at this event, and he was in Colorado, and oh, cool. And then I've known him for like 12 or 13 years now. We're just different people. So I think just stepping outside of that comfort zone, even if it's tough, is you find that passion and that excitement about like racing or trucks or whatever it might be. You just meet people who are the same as well, and you can build lifelong friendships. You can build teams. I'm sure this whole experience of what you're doing with your race trucks, there are lifelong memories there, things that are really important. And that's what I thought would be great to chat with you on this episode and really have somebody listen to and say, okay, I'm not going to let the fact I don't know how to drag race hold me back from this. Or maybe I can't, build a 3,000 horsepower truck right now. What can I do? What can I get my friends excited about? And, I think that's a really key part and something with racing. I could tell, like I said before, you're really passionate, excited about it. And that's the future, is getting more people interested in taking that step forward. You have some great pictures of your truck and videos. I know people are listening and like, I want to follow this guy. Where can I see what he's doing? Where can people check out what you're doing with the truck, get updates from you? Maybe they have a question they want to ask you about a 6-liter or a build and want to chat with you.
Instagram, it's Austin Denny 6.0. Facebook's just Austin Denny. And TikTok actually has been one of my bigger things, and I'm pretty sure it's just Austin Denny 6.0 as well. But I'm like I said, I'm an open book. If you ask me a question, I'll answer it. We don't help anybody by hiding what you're trying to do and being all sneaky and secretive. Nobody gains from that. So, if you got a question, I'll tell you what I think. You might tell me I'm an idiot, but hey, I'll tell you what I think.
Well, I was really excited to chat with you, like I said, because I'd heard about you so many times and we never talked before. And seeing what you're doing with racing, the 6-liter, I'm definitely going to keep my eye on. So keep me updated on it. Shoot us a message on Instagram, just with updates, things that's going on. And I'd love to chat with you again, maybe mid-race season or afterwards. I know you're going to be super busy, but just see how it did in 2023, get some more thoughts from you, and hopefully inspire some people out there to go to that test and tune, or you take their truck down the track, or just get involved in diesel, get involved in something they're passionate about.
I promise you, once you make the first pass, you'll know right away if you're in trouble or not.
Don't forget, diesel fans, make sure and head on over to Kershaw.kaiusa.com and if you're in the market for a knife, they got a 20% off site-wide code for you. Just use code DIESEL20. It's a great way to save some money on a knife, whether you need something for EDC or hunting, fishing, something throw in a toolbox or glove box. And there's so many different choices. And they've just had a huge product release recently, which we covered with them on an episode. And so you definitely want to check them out, see what they got. It's really cool to see their innovation in the knife world. And we know, diesel trucks and being outdoors and knives and lots of other things kind of fit together in that lifestyle. So we appreciate them being part of the podcast and then also offering a discount code to our listeners. Also want to give a shout out to some of our Patreon supporters, Tyler Loewen at 23 Diesel, Kaleb, John. We appreciate all of you on Patreon, all of you who subscribe on YouTube podcast apps or on our Discord. We're on year 7 of doing this, and you guys make the show what it is. So we appreciate your feedback, your comments, the questions you have asking for help or direction with something. This is why we do the podcast, and look forward to bringing you some really cool things in 2023. Until next time, keep the shiny side up.